Washington Commanders. Talk about a team I want to love more than I do. I'm just very pessimistic on them this season. Now, I'm not saying Jane Daniels is going to fall off a cliff, or that everything that worked last year is just going to spectacularly fail. No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think Daniels will probably be better this year, unless an injury were to come that we just don't foresee in the future. That being said, I think the Commanders really botched the offseason and really hampered my hopes for this team for at least this season and maybe next season as well, because I think they did such a poor job in the offseason. So let's jump into it. Let me air out my grievances with the Commanders offseason and preview their 2025 NFL season. Before I really start to hamper on this team, I would like to discuss the one move I really liked that they made, and that was trading for Laremy Tunsil. I don't know why the Texans traded him. I truly don't. You look at that Texans offensive line, it's not good. Tunsil will be the starting left tackle for the Commanders this year. I really do think he makes an impact for them, but my question is that it? And I'm really going to talk about this a little bit more during the draft process because I don't get their first pick. I truly don't. But you look at Tunsil, here's what he is right now. He's a franchise left tackle. Does he hold sometimes a bit much? Yes. Does he give you some penalties you wish there weren't happening? Yeah, that's the case. But 90% of the time, he's one of the best blockers in the league. You take that. You take that trade-off because what's the odds that your current left tackle was going to hold? Probably around the same as Tunsil, and now you just get a better blocker who can really stabilize the left side of that line, giving Jayden Daniels a really good blindside blocker. Now, I understand they had to let some of the guys go. Jonathan Allen, Jeremy Chinn, De'Ami Brown. I understand that. I'm not the biggest fan of getting rid of Jonathan Allen. I really like him as a player. And I really think it's stupid to replace him with Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw, when that contract was reported, I thought it was fake. Because in my head, I thought no team is paying him $15 million a year. That's a fake report. I then see it announced, and I'm like, that's real? That was my honest words I said out loud. That's real? Because he is not a starting defensive lineman in the NFL. I think a lot of people will tell you this. He gets blown off the ball horribly in the run game. Question, who does Washington play? Oh, Philadelphia. That's going to be a murder. Oh, New York, they can run the ball with Tyrone Tracy and Cam Skattebo. In Dallas does find ways to run the ball. Even though they don't have an established running back, they will run the ball at you. With Javon Kinlaw on the field, I think you're going to have more success. Jeremy Chinn, I get it. He was kind of whatever, not really a loss, and he's going to not even play safety in Las Vegas if you pay attention to how they're utilizing him. De'Ami Brown, he had really good chemistry with Jayden Daniels, but I understand not paying him $10 million. Keeping Marcus Mariota, I think, is a good move. Bringing in Von Miller at $6.1 million. Von Miller's not what he once was, and expecting him to be anything of his past self, I think, is just lunacy. But he can be a guy that gets you a sack every now and then. He still has some good playmaking ability off the edge. It's just very on rare occasions. Now, I could really go down and just talk about all the guys they re-signed, but I think it's important to talk about the guy that is currently in a contract standoff with them, Scary Terry, and I don't really know when this is going to get settled. I've seen stuff that he wants to be traded. He's even requested a trade publicly, but is it going to manifest? I honestly don't know at this point. I have heard from some people that the Baltimore Ravens are interested in him. I'm not saying a trade's going to happen. That's just with what I have heard personally myself. So we look at all this. If they keep Terry McLaurin, they will be better this year because he is a legit number one wide receiver. If they trade him, I don't know who the number one wide receiver is because it doesn't feel like they really have one. You can have a guy as a 2, but it doesn't mean he can necessarily step up and be the 1. Some guys are just better being the 2. I do like Luke McCaffrey, do not get me wrong. I could see him having a really good year this year. I don't think he's the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. You're going to rely on Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is not getting younger. He had a really good resurgence last year with Washington, but is he going to keep that up? He is getting up there in age. It's a very interesting dilemma the Commanders are in. They should pay Terry, but you also look at the fact, well, he is 30. Do you really want to invest a lot of capital in him? And maybe you look to trade him, you get some draft picks, because Jayden Daniels is still very young. They have a young team overall. Is this the move they look for the long-term future of, hey, this next year's wide receiver class could be really, really good if we can get a guy there. And listen, I'm not expecting you to get a first-round pick for Terry McLaurin. Probably a third-rounder would be my guess. But if you could get a wide receiver there, long-term you have a young rookie wide receiver with a really talented quarterback in Jayden Daniels. It's very interesting team building because everyone has associated Terry McLaurin with being the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL because he had no quarterback throwing him the ball. Now he has a quarterback, and we're in a contract standoff in which he might get shipped out of Washington. Just a very fascinating situation, and it's hard to really say what the right move is because there's arguments for both sides. Now to talk about their draft, and yeah, I don't care for the first round pick. Now, this is not me bad-mouthing Connerly as a player. I'm going to be very specific here. This is me thinking, why did they draft a left tackle after they just traded for Laremy Tunsil? It made no sense to me when I looked at it from that front. I think Connerly was a very talented player in this draft class, and I thought he would go in the back end of the first round. This is nothing about the player. He's very talented, but he is very raw in technique. He needs a good while to learn and develop, and you could even consider moving him to guard. Maybe that's with what they see. But when they announced him as left tackle, and he played a lot of left tackle, and you just trade for Laremy Tunsil, I don't get it. He is a very developmental guy. I thought the Texans should have drafted him because they really need anyone at the left tackle position. I don't get the move necessarily when the Commanders are looking to more win now, but if they do trade Terry McLaurin, I guess that makes more sense. But then I ask, why'd you trade for Laremy Tunsil? It's just really confusing team building there for me that I fully don't understand. Tunsil is a far better player right now than Connerly, so he's not going to be playing the left tackle position unless an injury happens. And if an injury happens, you are in trouble because Connerly should probably not be playing year one left tackle in the NFL because he's just not ready. And like you can again say, hey, he can sit behind Tunsil, he can learn. I don't necessarily think that was a smart move for Washington because you could have gotten somebody else there. You could have gotten a defender to really bolster your defense. There were some really good defenders on the board still. You could have looked at getting a different position. There were some good guards on the board. You could have looked at addressing tight end. There were some really good tight ends still on the board there. And you would have been able to have a succession plan soon after Zach Ertz, or even if Zach Ertz falls off this year, because his tight end class was so good, it would really help benefit their offense with how much Jayden Daniels likes to throw the football to tight ends. The Commanders, I think, really made a confusing draft pick that, who knows, I could be very wrong on this. Say 2-3 years from now, he's a really good left tackle in the NFL. I look like a massive idiot. And props to the Commanders for figuring that guy out, figuring out, hey, if we can get him in our system and work with him, he can be really good. And if that's a 10-year plan instead of a 2-3-year plan, I guess that makes all the sense in the world when you have a young quarterback. Now, the next pick in Trey Amos is a guy I like a lot more. He was a very talented cornerback. I was surprised he was on the board that late. He has some really good coverage skills, can play some zone, can play some man. I really like him as a nickel, though. I think he excels at a nickel. And if you've listened to me preach on this channel, I value nickelbacks so highly. I view them as a more important position than an outside corner in today's modern NFL because they just handle so much. They handle the slot receivers. They can come down blitz. They can come down play the run. In zone, they have to take away so many different areas. To me, it is a more versatile position and it's a more important position to address in the cornerback room. I think the Commanders did a very good job addressing that this year with drafting Trey Amos. Now, there's not really another pick that really makes my eyebrows raise, like, ooh, I like that pick. Lane from Virginia Tech, I thought he was solid, right around where I would draft him. Menando, I didn't really watch too much, and Krosky, I didn't watch a whole bunch of. I watched very little of him, and with what I saw, he cannot be on the field for passing situations. He cannot pass block at all. So I look at this Commanders draft, and I like one pick, and the rest I'm just like, I'm either mad to, I don't know how this is going to work out. And that's a very interesting spot for me to be in because the year prior, they had a phenomenal draft class that everyone was gushing over. And it's just very interesting to see the changes in a year of my opinion on how they've drafted. Only time will tell who is right and who's wrong. Now for strengths and weaknesses, and I would say the strength is Jayden Daniels. And when I say Jayden Daniels, I'm not necessarily talking about the quarterback position. I'm talking about how he can facilitate the football. He gets it to all of his weapons. He doesn't really set his eyes on one guy. His safety net last year was Zach Ertz, but he really did throw the ball to Terry McLaurin downfield, De'Ami Brown. It's why De'Ami Brown got $10 million from Jaguars. He spread the ball out really good, and they have good running backs so he can get in the passing game involved in it. They have a lot of talent there, and I expect a good season from Luke McCaffrey this year, really stepping into the NFL. So we look at all this, and I feel very comfortable saying the strength is Jay Daniels with his arsenal. Even if they trade Terry McLaurin, I still think it will be a good arsenal that he can get the ball to often. Now, weakness, I would still say the secondary. I'm not a fan of the secondary, and Dan Quinn has this thing that I think he's a really good defensive coordinator coach when he's just the DC working the secondary. I saw it in Atlanta. After a couple years, that secondary fell apart. They were making just simple mistakes on the field, and it brings some concern to me. Because as a head coach, your priority is not just defense, 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 defense. You have to be a CEO. Now, I do think the Commanders have hired better defensive coordinators. Well, hired a better defensive coordinator than Dan Quinn previously had in Atlanta. But you do look at the situation, and it raises some eyebrows, especially when you're not just a fan of the unit overall. Marshawn Lattimore, I'm very concerned about him playing healthy. He does not stay healthy often anymore, and it's a big concern. Trey Amos, really like. He is still a rookie, and the other guys, I just don't really have a good feel for at all. I look at this Commander secondary, and I think it's going to be the undoing of them this season. Now time for me to give my thoughts and opinions on where this team will finish in the division and where I think they'll play out in the NFC. I had them finishing third place in the division behind the Eagles and Cowboys, and I just had them missing the playoffs. I'm sorry, Commanders fans, it's just the case. And before everyone's like, oh, they're going to make it, they're going to make it, they're going to make it, they barely made the playoffs last year. Them missing it this year I don't think is that crazy, especially when you look at that secondary, and teams will have more film on Jayden Daniels. A sophomore slump is possible. I don't think it will happen to him, but I would say I don't necessarily think he's going to be as amazing as he was his rookie year right out of the gates because teams will adjust to him, and it's how Jayden Daniels adjusts to those teams adjusting to him. The Commanders, I think, have talent, and they will be a very good team for a long time. I just very much did not like that Javon Kinlaw signing, and I looked at their division, I looked at the NFC, and I'm like, the NFL has made a switch that they like to run the ball a good bit more now. It's still a passing league, but they will run it. They will try to run the ball more or less now because the Ravens really revolutionized the game with that. So you see teams running it. You see them more or less trying to open up the passing game with it than like 5 years ago. So I look at that and I just see a massive issue on the Commanders leading to that secondary, which I'm already not a fan of, getting more exposed. I think it was a bad move and it's really going to hamper the Commanders this season. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 300 subscribers by the start of the NFL season. At the time of this recording, I'm at 281. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you want to check out my season team previews for every single team, the Commanders were the last one. 32-32, the playlist is on the screen right now. Check that out. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you'll share this. Any sharing would really mean a lot to me. I'm trying to grow this channel, and I have fantasy football content coming down the wire here very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a great day.